If Gemma gave us the right location, then the workshop should be right nearby. Huh. Looks like these boxes are blocking the entrance. Let's shift them away first. There we go. It should be just out...
This was Caesar's workshop. Nothing suspicious here, just normal magic props. Let's head in further. What was that? Oh, is this one of Caesar's gadgets? Guess we must have triggered some sort of device. Not now.
Gloves off! Look alive! Chuck!
Stand clear. Whoa. Look. The doll in the box is glowing. There's something written on the card on this doll. What's it? These magic boxes are moving. What do we do?
One of them looks different from the rest. Let's investigate.
That's weird. Have we reached the end already? There's nothing here. Maybe this was a wasted trip.
This place seems a little too ordinary for a magician's work. We've triggered quite a few devices on the way here. If so, then there must be more to this place than meets the eye. Maybe, aha!
A secret passage!
I'm a magician too. Looks pretty big inside.
My guiding stars!
And voila!
Stars, shine for me! Animal test 6308. Absorption test. Animal test 6308. The night is cold.
Buckle up! Cha!
Absorption test.
Let's get this show on the road! Step right up!
One fell swoop! Hero incoming! Oof! Look out below! It's justice o'clock!
Why have you stopped, Lyney?
It just looks familiar somehow. Let me check this out for a second while you guys go on. If anyone makes a major discovery...
All right, see you in... Wow! There's a hidden room here! This book's thick as a brick!
At one of my shows a few days ago, a child asked me how I pulled candy out of my hat. As a joke, I told the kid that the hat has a built-in wish-granting machine. So I told them another white lie. The machine needs time to power up, but in the meantime, you can write your wishes down. Well, they took me up on that offer. Enthusiastic. I wound up saving very little this month. But that's not a major issue. I now have a bit... 2 children came to talk to me after today's show. I don't know why they were out on their own. They looked much too young to be unsupervised. I do hope they got home safely. Anyway, they said that they wanted me to teach them how to do magic. It's not uncommon for children to ask this, of course, but I've never seen any of them as serious about it as these 2. I told them that learning magic is very hard work, but that didn't faze them at all. It's like they already knew. They seemed so committed. I couldn't turn them down. It seems like something's bothering Lorenzo lately, but he won't open up to me about it. Surely he's not upset that I agreed to teach those two children. I'll have to talk him around. I have a good feeling about those kids. They're naturally they have all sorts of fantastic ideas. All I'm really doing is helping them develop a more professional standard training plan. They wanted to call me Master, but I told them they absolutely mustn't. Any magician worth their salt could have taught them what I have. They're the geniuses here. Compared to them, I don't deserve to be called any sort of master. With time, I have no doubt that they could become far greater magicians than I. My only concern is why they're so mature for their age. I fear they've had to grow up too fast. I don't dare to imagine what they must have been through. Gemma thinks so too. She doesn't like being around them. Says that their eyes are too piercing. They don't bother me, but then again, I've never been the sharpest tool in the shed. It's nearly time for me to go on tour. I asked the two kids if they'd like to come with me, but they shook their heads. I once overheard them talking about their father and their mission. Sounds like their parents have other plans for them. I guess we'll be parting ways soon. It's only been 10 days since I first met them, but I think that I've gotten a feel for their personalities now. They're very tough, but also very cautious, and they trust no one but each other. This, I fear, is not a good habit to have. They hide things from me too. For example, when I asked them where they live and why they wanted to learn magic, they lied. That's the thing about children. Whenever they're trying to cover, I can sense that their lives have been hard. Possibly even dangerous, too. They're not like other children. It's a shame that I can't do more to help them. After thinking things over, I decided to tell them a bit about how I see the world. It's full of lies and falsehoods, and that is why we must find our own truth. P.S. I hope they won't find my nagging annoying. Children are so opinionated nowadays. Will it do them more harm than good for someone they've only known 10 days to lecture them like that? P.P.S. Maybe I'm overthinking this. Children aren't interested in grand philosophies. It probably just went in one ear and out the other. I bet they've already forgotten every word I said. Oh, Caesar, Caesar. Just mind your own business next time.
Two magic geniuses with a father and a mission, huh? Sounds a lot like he was writing about Lyney and Lynette. So did they meet Caesar when they were kids?
Hold that thought. As I expect,
Fishy?
all in good time. Before we go over our new leads, I want to tell you first, the magician slots themselves into a magic box in full view of the audience. The box is then suspended high in the... At this point, a dummy will fall out of the box, but it looks real enough to grab the audience's attention. Meanwhile, the real magician, who has by now blended into the crowd, waits for a good moment to make their appearance. Oh no! Is that me? Did I just...
Very vivid description. Paimon can...
The audience's gaze then turns to the magician, and by the time they realize what's happened, the dummy has vanished. Of course, that's just how I think the process should work, theoretically speaking. The inventor of this trick never performed it successfully. When the box opened, Caesar, he fell right to the ground from the highest point of the opera house. And no one else has ever attempted this trick since. My understanding of how it works is just based on what I could gather from his notes, and the...
So Caesar's famous high-altitude escape has never been done? Paimon was about to say how cool it would have been to see it in person, but... Wait a second. So if a dummy's supposed to drop out of the box, then where does the real magician go?
Glad you asked. That brings us to the secret. This box right here is the one that Caesar constructed himself to use in the performance, and it's not as simple as it looks. Inside, there's once the magician's inside and the box is lifted up into the air, the audience's view of the box is fixed. From where they're standing, they have a clear view of the front, sides, and bottom, but the back and the top are now no longer visible. At this point, the magician presses a button inside the box. He then escapes through this trapdoor onto the opera house roof, waits for the dummy to fall and distract the audience, and quietly returns to ground.
That's way simpler than Paimon imagined.
Well, there's a little more to it than that, of course. The hardest part of this trick is controlling the audience. There's the falling dummy, the miraculous reappearance, the pompous performing. Maybe the magician would even have themselves tied up before it begins to strengthen the impression. Many days and nights of careful research and painstaking practice. Caesar was a highly accomplished magician.
So, how did it go so wrong?
I can make a pretty good guess. I looked into the case files. The magic box Caesar was using at the time of his death had the secret button I mentioned positioned on the right-hand side. And, sure enough, he always used his right hand as his dominant hand in public.
Okay, nothing.
But here's the strange thing. Most of the devices in this workshop have the mechanism on the left-hand side, including this box right here. Which leads me to believe that Caesar was in fact because a magician can't afford to have their most basic habits stand out too much. People naturally focus their attention on the most important details of the task or situation at hand. But a magician needs to be able to redirect an audience's attention at will so as to avoid arousing their suspicion. The essence of magic is getting people to believe a lie. If even the truth raises eyebrows, the falsehoods become all the more difficult to mask. And so, Caesar trained himself to use his right hand to align with his audience's expectations. Great magic always requires, but in his most stressful and nerve-wracking moments, and when no one was watching, reflex would kick in and he'd use his left hand. That's why he set his... Exactly. I think that's likely what happened. Caesar would have been under a lot of time pressure during the escape. He'd have had mere seconds, but I'm sure he was confident. He would have rehearsed countless times to the point where it was second nature. So he opened the compartment, took out the dummy, checked everything was in order, and then went to leave. With his left hand, he reached, much like when you reach for your keys but find your pocket empty, his mind needed. Instinctively, his left hand would keep feeling around for the missing button, maybe for another second or two. With the stakes being as high as they were, just a 2-second delay cost him everything. The authorities would find...
When in reality, someone switched the boxes. But how would they be able to make the switch without being noticed?
It would have to have been someone who knew that he was left-handed, and who could move his props around without arousing. Isn't that right?
You just couldn't let sleeping dogs lie. There's not a lot of people who'd go to all this trouble for some magician who died 10 years. But I gave you your chance. I hoped you'd do what's good for you and back off like the lady, but...
You mean Gemma? So you...
Yes, although however stubborn she might be, she was never much of a liar, which is why you can't leave this place alive.
Do you... Don't be scared. My guiding stars. Enhanced Animal Module 75. Animal Test 63.
You're dead meat! Look alive!
The night is cold.
Yeah! Look out below! It's justice o'clock! Yeah!
Stars, shine for me.
And voila! A round of applause! Had enough yet, Lorenzo? I think it's high time you started talking.
If I had a mora for every time you've said that man's name. Of course you idolize Caesar. He was just an amateur who did cheap tricks for gullible children. I was the one who made
So it was jealousy.
jealousy. Hatred, more like. He poured everything into his street performances and his stupid tours like it was just a hobby to him, never bothering to think about Mora. What sort of fool devotes their life to the art? But the people loved him, didn't they? Oh, how they looked up to him. Amazing. Yeah, so amazing that he was completely broke. Every other apprentice was living it up at their master's expense, but no, not me. I put in all the work, mastered all the skill. He forbade me from using magic to trick people out of their Mora. There was nothing he hated more than that. And with his reputation in Fontaine, it was too risky for me to go it alone. As long as he was alive, if I dabbled in my own, I had to kill him. There was...
And this was your only motive?
It was reason enough. What other motive would I...
Well, I was under the impression that there might have been other factors at play. For instance...
In love with Gemma? Don't be ridiculous.
Guess I was wrong about that then.
I am. Caesar was so strict with me. He insisted that his way was the right way. That the soul... I never bought into any of that. I was more interested in the practical value of magic.
Oh, yeah! Charlotte told us that the weasel would steal what...
That's just how it looked from the outside. What would any thief want with second-rate loot? I stole cheap things as a way of practicing my craft. It was other people's overactive imaginations that conjured up the preposterous image they...
So, that's the story, huh? Well, I hope you're ready to tell it all over again during your trial.
What choice do I have? You're a pack of wolves? So be it. I've enjoyed power and wealth for the last 10 years.
Very well. In that case, I'll call... Traveler, Paimon, keep an eye on Lorraine.
Look who's finally developed. What kind of disciple murders their own master? I hope it was worth it, because they'll be hell to pay.
Looks like it's all over. What should we do next, Lyney? Should we...
Let me think. Let's rendezvous with Lynette and Gemma first. With Lorenzo in custody, Gemma will no longer have to fear for her safety.
Good point! We should go tell Gemma the good news right away! It'll give her some...